All right, so welcome back to another Bitwig kind of a, let's say, practice series, at this point. So we're going to grab the Polysynth, something, I released a video about the Polysynth a few days ago, explaining how this works. And now we're going to make some patches because that's the, the good way of learning a synthesizer, just making patches and making sounds. So I'm going to do some sounds and you're going to do it with me, right? And then at the end of the day, I'm going to go grab the patch, save it as a patch. I'm going to put it on Patreon, on the free side of Patreon. So you can go and get the patch and you can download and then maybe you can use it or, mess around with that. Okay, so let's begin with the lead. This is the lead. I'm going to go and solo the lead and maybe just lower the volume a little bit because it's going to be just a little bit annoying. So that is the lead. Of course, it sounds like crap. We need to do something better. Now, whenever you do leads, it's just like doing keys or maybe even doing pads. Depends, of course, on the pads. If you have evolving pads with a lot of things going on, it's just not the same. But at the end of the day, it's all about the envelopes. Right now, it sounds like a lead, right? And it's because the sustain, we are sustaining notes. Right here, we have sustain notes. So we have a sustain. If I go down on the sustain, it sounds more like a pluck than a lead, right? So, the sustain is very important. So in this case, I'm going to go sustain all the way up and I'm going to go to the attack and I'm going to go and do something like, I don't know, maybe 10, 11. And again, it already sounds like a lead. Now, it would be cool to mess with the oscillators and just get something a little bit better because right now, again, it doesn't sound that good. So, okay, so what can we do? Well, first, I'm going to go right here and you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go and say that I'm going to stack two voices. Now, I'm going to go and do a little bit of pitch detuning and we already cover all of this on the first video. This is the second one of this, kind of a practice with the Polysynth series. And we already did this and I'm not going to explain it again. I'm just going to go and do it. So this is going to stack two voices and it's going to give us that, bigger sound. Right. Okay, so let's just mess with this a little bit more. Now, right now, we are just using the oscillator number one. Again, the oscillator number one. Let me just go and enable this right here. Well, right now, my keyboard is not working. I spilled coffee on kind of a half of my hardware since it just was a mess. Not hardware, but, part of some of the MIDI controllers. And now it's not responding, so, I'm sad. Okay, so that's fine. So right here, we have a saw, and that's fine. Now I'm going to keep it in 8. That's cool. But I want to mess with this shape a little bit more because it sounds too nice. So I'm going to go to the shape, and I'm going to go and just maybe move it towards there. We are not going to get a saw. We just get something in between a saw with a square, which is maybe nice. It's just a bit more interesting than just a saw. Now, another thing that we want to do, I want to make a blend between the first and the second one. And the second one, I'm going to make it lower. All right. I'm going to go right here and I'm going to go to the shape. And what we can do, we can start to mess with this shape right here. So I'm going to go and mess with the shape until I find a place where I like. Maybe there's go. Now, again, it sounds just too nice. So, since we are using and stacking voices, why not using the unison? Now, the thing is that with leads, something needs to have, this more voices kind of thing, but you need something in the center because it's a lead. It needs to have some good, what is happening with that? Okay, let's just close it. So, you need to have a good center point. So, I'm going to go again, back here. I'm going to go again. And I'm going to go more right here to the center point, which is this one. But I'm going to go to this one and make it bigger. And I'm going to detune the voices just a little bit more. So on the number one, it sounds more like that. Now, on this one, again, I want the mid first, the one voice mono, and a little bit of the detuned super stereo side of things. And again, it already sounds like a lead. Now let's mess with the envelopes. I'm gonna go and just chop a little bit of the high frequencies. Maybe I'm gonna go right here and do something, I don't know, like that. Of course, it sounds too dark. I'm gonna do a little bit of resonance, not a lot. But now I'm gonna go right here and do the envelope. I'm gonna go like there. Okay. So of course we need to mess with these envelopes to make it sound cool. And remember again, if this is a lead, I don't want a plucky sound. So let me just do the loop. If I do something like that, or like that, you have a pluck. That sounds kind of a lead because we are doing a lot of sustaining. So again, all of this is, whenever you work with leads, the envelopes are just very important. If I do something like this, we're gonna get that wow, you know, that modulation with the filter. I kind of like it, you know? But I'm gonna go 100% on the sustain, a little bit of release right here, and a little bit of release right here. And again, I kind of like that. Now, if you want to make it shorter, remember you have the envelopes right here, the curve. If it go down, it's going to be shorter or exponential. Right. Again, just a simple start. Now, what we can do, we're going to lower the volume right here, lower the volume right here. I'm going to go a little bit of drive. Now we can introduce a little bit of feedback. This is going to give us a little bit of kind of a lows. Notice that the lows go bigger. Just a little bit of feedback. And we can do a little bit of glide. All right. So it sounds cool to me. If I go to the keyboard right here, disable the keyboard, it sounds darker. Right here sounds a little bit brighter. I'm going to enable a little bit of keyboard, filter key tracking. Okay. Now, of course, it sounds cool, but, without the effects, it sounds like, crap. Now, I'm going to go and do a little bit of effects. I'm going to bring an EQ. I'm going to bring a compressor, a delay, and a reverb. Okay, so got an EQ dynamics, which is a compressor, a delay, and a reverb. So let's do the work. Now, most of the sound is right here, right? So I'm going to go right here and chop the lows. I don't care about the lows. And I'm going to do kind of I made a mistake. I'm going to go to the other one. And I'm going to just remove some of the lows because we don't need them. None of the frequencies are going right here. So all of this is just mud. Now, it sounds a little bit too bright for me. And this is just my opinion. Now, and I'm going to tell you something important right now. I'm going to chop a little bit of the highs. Maybe you're listening this on some headphones, or maybe you're listening this on some good speakers. Right now, just to do this, just for me to be able to do this, I cannot use my studio monitors. I'm doing this on some headphones. And these headphones, they do a boost on the highs. So for me, it's like super bright because the headphones have a kind of a default EQing. It kind of sucks, but that's the way it works. Now, in my case, I'm hearing a lot of highs. It's super bright. That's why I'm cutting the highs. But maybe in your case, it's not right. So you don't need to cut the highs. All of this is just, perspective. Okay, for me, it sounds cool. Now I'm going to go and do a little bit of dynamics. I'm going to go do a little bit of compression. Now, I'm going to do a medium attack and start with something like that. And we're going to start going down on the ratio. So what I want to do, I want to control the peaks a little bit. I don't want to super compress. It's going like up and down. It's just controlling and smoothing everything. Now, if I turn it off, there's kind of a pumping, which is, in this case, fine. I'm going to do a little bit less. For me, it's cool. There's not a lot of change in volume, which is fine. And okay, let's do the delay, or maybe I'm going to go and do the delay. So I'm going to go bring a delay, and we're going to do something simple. Now, whenever you offset the left from the right on the delay, It's gonna sound like that. It's just massive. And it's gonna start, moving from left to right. So if you're gonna do something like this, make sure you do a low mix. You do just a little bit. You don't do a lot. Now, in my case, I don't want this movement from left and right. I'm just gonna use 4. Now, if you want to know how it sounds, you start playback and then you stop it. And you hear the repetitions. Maybe they are too long, so I'm gonna go down on the feedback. That's it. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna make it wider. Alright, so that's fine. I just want a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. I'm not gonna do the tune, maybe I'm gonna lower this. And now let's do the reverb. I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna go and bring the reverb. And in this case, you know what? I'm gonna go and just pick a reverb from the list of reverbs. Let me do play again. So I'm gonna go Hall. Yeah, that sounds fine. Fine to me. Now, if I do too much, we get that, which is not what I want. I want a little bit. And okay. For now, that's cool. Now, it sounds nice. It's not a bad lead. It's gonna work on the track. Just gonna work. It's just gonna work. But maybe you want a little bit more, something else. And this is what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna start adding movement, because right now what it's missing is that we don't have movement. So I'm gonna go and bring maybe a classic LFO. I'm gonna go and right here and do a beat LFO. I'm gonna do 1/8, and I'm gonna do a little bit of pitch detuning. This is just gonna add a little bit of magic. Now, if I play this, that's just not right, right? So what I like to do, I like to go less on the intensity. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. You can even do a triangle instead of a sine wave. It's just to move the pitch, just a little bit. Just to kind of a vintage, make it a little bit more vintage. Now, of course, again, it still sounds very dull, right? It just sounds dull. Now, okay, so now here comes your creativity and your exploration. There are a lot of things you can do. You can mess with the sound a lot. So, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw things. I'm just, making this up as we go. So maybe I'm gonna go and bring an ADSR, right? I'm just gonna bring an ADSR. And with the ADSR, what I want to do, I'm gonna maybe mess with the oscillator number 1. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna do something like that. I'm gonna go and do something like that. I'm just maybe gonna keep it default. So what I want to do, I want to move the sync. It's much more interesting, right? It's okay. So what I want to do, I'm gonna go right here and move it up by an amount of, I don't know, close to 12. Much more interesting, right? If I turn this off, it's very static. But now it's just a little bit more interesting. And we did just an ADSR, is a little bit of exploring. We didn't do much. Right? So it's just cool. Okay. So let's do a little bit more since we are here. Now we have right here the shape that we have right here at the bottom. What happens if we start modulating this a little bit more? So instead of using the envelope, I'm just going to go and bring a classic LFO. And I'm going to go and just set it to a slow. Maybe 1/4 is going to be fine. I'm going to go and do something like this. I just want to move it. Now, of course, it's just maybe too aggressive. So I'm going to go down. I just want to move it a little bit. The idea is to add movement. Right. Okay, so much more interesting, right? So we can still do more. We can go crazy right here. I'm going to go and bring I don't know. Let me bring the parseq. Why not? The parsec. So with this one, what this does is that it's gonna keep going on and on and on and on, following the transport. Of course, you can change the steps and the timing. But what I want to do is maybe just manage the shape. But I don't want to do it with another LFO motion. I just want to do it on kind of in a step motion. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go, I don't know, to step number 2. And I'm going to go and put the shape maybe here. I'm going to go to the number 2. And I'm going to say when the 2 place, you know, when we are spot on the spot of the number 2, I'm going to go down to the shape. We're going to go to I'm going to skip the number 3. And again, we are just kind of making this up. I'm going to go down. I don't know, something like that. Then I'm going to go, we are on the number 4. Why not? I'm going to go to the number 5. And on the number 5, I'm going to go and do it like this. I'm going to go to the number, this is a 6. Maybe I'm going to go, I don't know, 6. Go here. I'm going to skip the 7 and I'm going to do the 8. Why not? And the 8, we're going to do the same. Now, another thing that we can do, we can say, okay, so we are always going down. Notice that how it moves. And again, it's much more interesting. But, you know, I can go to maybe the number 4 and go the other way. Notice it's going the other way. Now, if you listen closely, there is like a sound behind, like a percussive sound, and it's because the movement of this is very kind of a static. It's just on and off, just like a square. So this is the smooth control. It's going to smooth the transition and the movement between, you know, step and step. Now it's much more smooth. Right? So if I just check on this one, I click this one and disable them, it's just going to change how it sounds. Now, here comes, this is about taste or what your track needs, because maybe you need a lead on your track that needs something dull because you have a lot of movement behind. So you don't need to create a lead that moves all over the place. So all of this is just going to make it worse. But maybe, you know, you have a nice track that sounds very, I don't know, I wouldn't say static, but you don't have a lot of movement. And then the lead is going to go on the top and it's going to shine because it's going to move all over the place. That is why we are doing this. But you don't have to do this. It depends on your track. That's why when you make patches, it's always a good idea to put a track, right? And make a patch on top of the track. Okay, so that's fine. I'm happy with this one. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it a day with a lead, and I'm gonna move on to the next one. And on this one, I want to do kind of an acid kind of a sound. All right, so first let me show you. I'm gonna go down on the filter a little bit. I'm gonna show you how this sound, and maybe I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's what we want to do. I want to do something acid. So with the acid, what happens when you work with acid is that there's a lot of movement of the filters. So right now I'm not doing anything, but if I go, I'm not gonna get it because I don't have high frequency. So let me just go right here and mess with the oscillators, and then we're gonna take care of this one. So I'm gonna go and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go maybe to a square, right? I'm gonna go to right here. I don't know if I want to stack voices. We're gonna try it with and without maybe in a minute. So I'm gonna go right here to sub, to the unison. I'm gonna do 4 voices on this one, and it's the high. This one are the highs. So I'm gonna go, and cool. All right. So I'm gonna go and bring the other one. I'm gonna make it 8 as well, but this one is gonna be a saw. Let me just go to the other one. I'm going to make it one voice. All right. Now, maybe since it's too nice, what I want to do, oh, Max. I love using Max. So Max, what it's just going to do is going to kind of create a blend between the first and the second one. And we can actually see this. Let me go right here. 1 second. Okay, so now that my MIDI keyboard is fixed, I'm going to go and show you what we have on the number 1. So on the number 1, I'm going to go high on the frequencies, or maybe something low. We have something like that, right? And we can see square all over the place. Now at the bottom, we have a saw. Now the Max, what it's going to do is going to do a blend. We're going to see it right here. We're going to see some of the peaks of the saw, and I'm going to go and make it like this so we can get more peaks. I'm going to go and get closer to the number 2, and notice that we can start seeing some peaks from this one. And if I go much higher, notice that we get a blend of both. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to go and use the Max because I really like that, the Max. Now, this is still doesn't sound very acid. It sounds more like a crazy, dumb bass. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go add a little bit of feedback, and I'm going to start messing with the envelopes. So here comes the part where it sounds a bit more acid. So I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go right there. And I'm going to use this one for now. Now it sounds more acid, right? Now I'm going to mess with the envelopes. I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to go to the decay. I'm going to go sustain. And I'm going to make it all, kind of an AR kind of a envelope for the amp. All right. Now, the thing is that the 24 is very resonant. So that is the kind of acidness that I want. But it's too aggressive. I want something like this. Something less aggressive. Because we're going to be modulating, or I'm going to be doing something weird right here. All right. So that's fine. That's a good starting point. But for now, I'm just going to go right here and put it right there. I'm going to do no keyboard tracking. I'm going to go less on the envelope. And okay. So what I want to do, I want to be able to move this. Now we could use a different envelope, but we already have an envelope right here, right? I'm going to go and use that envelope. I'm going to go. And it's, starting to sound acid. And we can manually modulate or do some automation with this. And, we already have a good sound. Let me just adjust the curve. I'm going to go... No, I don't like that. I'm going to go and do maybe minus 50 or something like that. I believe it sounds cool there. Alright, I kind of like it. Now, of course, it's missing something. It's missing a little bit of movement. It's missing a little bit of craziness. So, since this section is all about craziness, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to bring a classic LFO. Why not? I'm going to go bring a classic LFO, and I'm going to make it a beat. I'm going to just make it a little bit more control, and I'm going to make it really slow. So what I want to do, I want to go up right here, since this lasts it's always the same repetition. We can go up and down, up and down, up and down on each kind of a riff or whatever it is that you call it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to disable the bipolar because I don't want it. I'm going to go right here and I'm going to go up by some amount. And I'm going to go up by some amount. Notice it's really slow. And now we are starting to get movement from the envelope, movement from, you know, the LFO. Right here is the lower, and then it goes up and down. That's the idea. Again, we want movement. Right. So again, it already sounds nice. If we add a little bit of effects, like maybe a reverb, just gonna sound a little bit nicer, maybe. Still, you know, it already sounds nice. With distortion, with a little bit of distortion, this will sound really cool. I don't wanna mess with distortion right now. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do some room, maybe hall. I like that. I'm gonna go less on the mix, less on this one. Again, it sounds cool. Okay, so let's just keep messing with this. I'm gonna go and I want to use a little bit of the noise. That's the noise. But I don't want the noise every single time. I want to do something else. So I'm gonna go and do something I use all the time is the steps. So what I want to do is to create some kind of a motion with the noise that it's not following an envelope. I just want to do something. So I'm gonna go and say that the noise is gonna go up like this. Now we are gonna decide with this when it goes up and down. So maybe I want the second one, something like that. Maybe I'm gonna skip this one, skip this one, skip this one, and I'm gonna go here up. Then here. It's not very noticeable, but we can hear in the back, right? That's the idea, just to add tiny things. All right. What else can we do? Let's do the parsec 8 since we already use it. I'm gonna go right here, and I'm gonna go right here. Oh, maybe not there. I'm gonna go and open it, and maybe we can do a little bit of glide. Now, if everything is glide, notice it's like. So what I like of the glide is on this part. So maybe I'm not going to use the glide on, you know, the whole clip. I'm going to use glide maybe just on the 6th or maybe on the 7th. Why not? I'm going to go to the 7th, which is before we end, and I'm going to go maybe up on the glide. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to go maybe up on the glide, maybe something about there. Now the thing is that just to make it work, I'm going to go and enable this. Oh, yeah. So when we reach and we play this note, the one we have right here is going into glide, not glade, into glide. And we hear that boom. Right. And I gotta take this patch. I think I'm gonna add it to the collection. Now, I don't want to mess with distortion because, you know, but let's just give it a try. So distortion. Maybe I'm gonna need to lower the volume just a little bit now because the distortion is kind of a super aggressive. Right, so maybe it's too much, and that's fine. And we are doing a little bit of low. Now we don't need to go 100%, of course. And if I do less, it's gonna saturate less, of course. Maybe something like that. I'm gonna provide less gain. No. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna do a blend. I'm gonna go up in gain. Now, without, of course, we need to go up in volume. Now, I could use a tool right here instead of messing with this one to drive less here. But I'm gonna like it. Now, if you don't want it, you can go right here and just go up in the volume and just keep this, just like the way it was. For now, I'm gonna leave it like this, but remember that you can mess with the distortion. And I'm telling you this because, again, this patch is gonna go to you. You can go to Patreon. I'm gonna give you the links, and you can download the patch so you can add it to your collection. And it's free, of course, the free side of Patreon. You don't need to pay anything. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the acid one. So let's move on to the next one. So I'm gonna go and do the strings. So on this one, I don't want to go crazy. I just want to do some classic strings because this is something that we need or we do the whole time. Depends on the track, of course. And I want to do some classic strings. Okay, so I'm happy with the acid. I'm gonna go. All right, so let's move on to strings. On this one, I want to do some classic strings. Strings. I don't want to go crazy, right? Making sure that this is poly. We could use voice stacking. I'm gonna not use it right now. Okay, so if we talk about strings, maybe we talk about saw, right? Just a saw. So I'm gonna go right here, maybe do something like that. And on this one right here at the bottom, I'm gonna go and do both of 8. So if we take a listen, it sounds like that, like trash. Now, of course, these ones are some strings. So I'm gonna go and adjust the attack. I'm gonna make something like 50-ish. I'm gonna go and make it sustained. And I'm gonna go and do a little bit of release. Maybe there. It's too much. Okay. But now we're gonna use the envelope. So I'm gonna go do a little bit of envelope. Maybe I'm gonna do something around, I don't know, around there. And let's see how it sounds. Super bright. So I'm gonna back right here. I'm gonna go less resonance. A bit better. And I'm gonna go and do a little bit of this and a little bit more of sustain. Now, it doesn't sound bad. Starting to sound like a string, some strings. But I'm gonna need to bring a little bit more from the oscillator number 2 because this is a lonely oscillator. Just very lonely. We can make it bigger if we go and we use a little bit of unison. And now it sounds like strings. There you go. A little bit of glide when doing strings is a good thing. Now, maybe I want something else right here because this doesn't sound like a string at all. So I'm gonna go and do something like shape. I'm gonna mess with this. I'm gonna do gonna do a saw. I'm just gonna, do a different saw, not the same that we have at the top. And again, I'm gonna mess with the unison. Maybe I'm gonna do this bigger because it's a little bit different. We have a little bit more highs, and I'm gonna go and do less unison in this one. But I want more of this because I want a more normal strings. Now, you could use the feedback. Remember how this worked. The sound that comes from here is going to go to the filter and kind of move it. Notice that there's a little bit of motion. Now, this can go really aggressive. Now, I'm gonna add a little bit, just tiny amount, just to get a little bit of movement. All right. So again, it's still we're on the classic side of things. Now, what I would like to do, I would like to add a little bit of movement because it sounds very static. I'm gonna go classic LFO, and I don't know. Maybe we could keep it like this, or maybe we can, just go and do a time it. Okay, so what do I want to do? Maybe I want to move this, something like that, or maybe something like that. I want to move between the 1 and the 2, but I want more from the 1 than the 2. Now this is again bipolar, so maybe I'm gonna need to adjust this and do it like that. I'm gonna maybe not make it bipolar, something like that. I can like it. Notice that we can hear the movement. If I go faster, maybe. All right, kind of like that. Now, if this is too aggressive for you, you can just go lower in the amount. And when I go low, I want you to hear movement. The sound, it's a bit more static. If I go up, it's like moving, right? Up and down. Now, on the track, whenever you make, not maybe patches, but whenever you make tracks, movement, it's really important. It's just going to take it to a next level. It's something that you need to do the whole time. Now, since these are strings, I'm going to make it a vintagey strings. I'm going to go to a classic LFO, and hopefully you're just learning something and, just watching me making a patch from scratch. Maybe I should, call this section like that, a patch from scratch, or something like that. I'm going to do a little bit of a pitch detuning. So I'm going to go and do this. It's going to be too much, right? So I'm going to go do a triangle. It's less aggressive. I wouldn't say less aggressive, but it's just moves different. I'm going to do just a little bit. Okay. Let me just toggle off. Okay, that's fine. And maybe a little bit of feedback. Kind of like that. And again, we are creating vintagey strings. Just strings. Now, what we are missing right now is the spatial effects. Maybe I'm going to do less on this. Okay. So, we are missing a lot of the spatial, reverb, all of that. Because, right now it doesn't sound like string. We need to provide a little bit of reverb. And because always, well, not always, but most of the times the strings go at the back. They don't go at the front. So you just maybe going to need to push it back. And the way to push back something is with a reverb. So I'm going to go and do all bright. Maybe not bright. Let's just, now it sounds like strings, classic strings. Maybe make it more larger. Okay. Now, these are high strings. You can make it low strings. Since we have a little bit of the one and more of the two, we can make it something like that. Now, since this one is a little bit different, we can make it closer. We're gonna get, like an ensemble. Low strings and high strings. Now, I don't want that. I just want to keep it an 8. But of course, remember that you can change it. And at the end of the day, it's all about envelopes. If I go really fast, it's different, right? And this is gonna not make it sound like strings. It's gonna sound like a pluck with sustain. And envelopes are just everything whenever when you work with leads, strings, and kind of the keys and that kind of things. So actually envelopes are just essential. So something like that is just gonna make the trick. Gonna do the trick. So I kinda like it. Now remember that you can again still go crazy. Or not crazy, but just do something else. Let's say that I like this string sounds, but I don't like the strings to be really sustained. So I'm gonna go and bring an ADSR, right? And I'm gonna make it more of a plucky kind of a string. So I'm gonna go right here, gonna maybe go right here at the bottom. I'm just gonna say we gonna get this kind of a pluck string. And it sounds different. It's just a different vibe. And it depends on what you want to do, you know, what the track requires. Maybe I'm just doing too much. And again, it depends on what you want to do. Maybe your track needs something like this. Now, I'm just showing you, I don't like this. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to that. Okay. Now, what is important right here, sounds like strings. The resonance will play a part on the strings. Notice they just sound a bit more aggressive. And notice, take a look at the reverb right here. How it's going crazy on this side, on the mid side. And it's because we are boosting there. And again, at the end of the day, it depends on what you want to do and which sound you want. I like that. I'm going to keep it like that. Now, right now we are playing 2 notes at one time. Now, this is going to change when you play a different arrangement. Because right now we have 8 and 8, and we are just playing on the highs. But then what happens if we do more and we add lows and we add highs? Just going to completely change the sound. That's why I'm telling you, whenever you make patches, you need to work with what you want to do, you know, with the track or a clip, a very specific clip. I designed this on the fly right now to fit it to this strings, not this. But you know, you cannot argue that this doesn't sound, you know, this sounds bad. It just sounds cool. But it's a different vibe. And now this one sounds super low. So what I can do, I'm gonna need to maybe just modify this, or maybe keep some of the lows. And again, it sounds different. That's why I'm telling you, whenever you create patches or you toggle between a preset pack, always trying to catch the vibe. If you like something, trying to mess with the, you know, the range, the filters, trying to modify it until you get something you like. Patches or presets are for inspiration, not just to use. All right. Okay. So again, I'm going to go, just save this as a patch. I'm going to go and give you the download, check the description. You're going to get this 3 patches so you can add it to your arsenal. Remember, of course, you can support the channel on Patreon, and you get, you know, preset packs. I do a lot of preset packs. I release things every month, and you get, of course, early access to all of this, and you know all that thing. So if you want to support the channel, check Patreon, and if you don't, that's cool. Now you can go to Patreon, download this. I'm gonna give you the project as well, maybe, and hope you like this. You learned something, and see you on the next one.